And welcome. We are live, and it looks like we are able to get all the channels online and on stream, and we are live. Always something to check twice before you start talking. Welcome, a warm welcome to Home Office Talks, and thanks so much for tuning in. Today we talk about what makes cities sustainable. Most of us, around 80%, will be living in cities by 2050. The question remains, of course, how to do this sustainably. So that means using less resources than our one planet is able to sustain. And we all know the challenges of urbanization. Managing high population density, often lack of affordable housing, avoiding pollution, and congestion. And that brings me to the beautiful scenery behind me. This is from the city of Überlingen in Germany. With about 20,000 residents, it's close to Switzerland. And besides being a nice location in southern Germany, it is a test bed for the future of sustainable living, alongside with Stuttgart, the capital of the state of Baden-Württemberg. These cities want to become climate neutral by 2050, hence their project name is called Stadtquartier 2050, City District in English. So we can look at this city, we can look at Überlingen as a blueprint, I think, for the whole country, if not the whole world. And we can learn from the way they have planned, the way they have built, and the way they have collaborated. And I'm honored to welcome the true experts to discuss this exciting topic. First, we have Dr. Andreas Hutter, Managing Director of Puren, a mid-sized but internationally operating company that has pioneered the polyurethane industry for over 50 years. Welcome, Andreas. We should be getting you online now. And there you are, Andreas. Good to see you.
Yeah, welcome, Nico. It's a great pleasure for me to being invited here.
Ha, wonderful. Also with us is architect Jan Schlüter from M67 Architekten in Überlingen, the agency tasked with designing not only single houses, but entire blocks. Welcome, Jan.
Hello, thank you for the...
Wonderful. And a warm welcome to Susheta Govil, Chief Commercial Officer and member of the board at Covestro. She's a passionate advocate for circular economy within the materials industry and someone who has spent time in many cities around the world, I'm sure. Welcome, Sue.
Thank you, Nico. What a privilege to be here. Thanks.
So guys, before we jump into the discussion, let me again remind you that this is not meant to be a series of monologues, but a truly interactive live broadcast. So you can literally click us or touch us if you're using a smartphone, type in your comments, questions, or protests. We want to discuss your perspectives as we go along. And there is a Slido poll active right now. And let me put it up so you can see it. Here it is. I'm asking your opinion, and we are asking your opinion on what you believe contributes to make a city sustainable the most. Is it public policy? Is it technology, something we'll be talking about today? Or is it human behavior? Or is it all of that? So just go to slido.com and type in the hashtag hot and have your say. So let's start by explaining our audience what the City District 2050 is really all about. There are many partners involved in this project, many different avenues of collaboration and several innovation projects. So let's talk a little bit about the goals of this project and what are we trying to achieve with this project. Andreas, Andreas, you have spent time with this project from the beginning, so maybe you can kind of introduce us what is Stadtquartier 2050 all about?
Yes, thank you very much, Nico. It's really a big pleasure to being part of this big collaboration. We are around about 14 partners who work on this new project, on this new solution, making cities more climate neutral. We all know that the building sector consumes almost about 40% of the total energy level and is responsible for around about 1/3 of the total carbon dioxide emission. So modernizing and building sector is absolutely crucial to meet the climate targets lately 2050. And this is a challenge. Smaller cities have to find a solution, for example, or regional cities like Überlingen, but also the larger cities, the capitals, for example, like Stuttgart. And so we decided to make a collaboration between two cities together with industrial partners, with planners and architects, and together with research universities, and to find new products, to develop new products, to develop a new solution for this, because it's a very complex problem. And then there was an opportunity because the German government is also looking for a kind of lighthouse solutions, which can be a reference for other cities. And so the German government issued a championship already in 2016 and asked cities to apply for additional funds for research work. And that was a great opportunity. And we are very happy that Stadtquartier 2050 is now one of 6 projects in Germany which won this championship. And the overall target is to provide a solution, not only focusing on a building, not only focusing on an apartment, but keep the focus on whole complete city districts, on quarters, to realize synergies within a quarter, and to provide a solution for being climate neutral, but also to keep a socially balanced living and keep rental fees on an affordable level. And so these 3 targets these 3 items are very important in this project in Überlingen, like in Stuttgart.
Thanks. Thanks, Andreas. I think you're getting an echo from your side, I guess, or somebody's side. But anyway, this is a very ambitious project. So I just wanted to touch, Jan, maybe just your perspective. When you heard about this project, what were your thoughts as an architect? What makes this project so special from an architect perspective?
Yes, thank you. I think for an architect, especially for me, it's a very, very interesting project because we create that city district more than 180 flats, and that's a very, very big responsibility to create living space for all these people, especially for Überlingen.
Thanks, Jan. And I think I'm getting a small echo from your side, or from somebody's side. Let me check who it is. I think, yeah, we're getting a small echo from Überlingen, but I think now we're good. I want to touch about the topic of innovation and collaboration, because this is something that you, Jan, also mentioned in the beginning. This is all about collaboration, and one of the initiatives has been the Dream Resources, and kind of the willingness and the idea to use renewable materials as a part of getting more sustainable cities with the materials. So can you talk a little bit about that, the Dream Resource collaboration that we have had, and maybe you start, Jan, from your perspective, and then Susheta, you can continue from your point of view. Jan? Yeah, Andreas. Sorry.
Yeah. The Dream Resource project is also a very, very positive example and very amazing example for successful collaboration work between different partners. It is was launched by Covestro together with industrial partners like Purain and universities and other industrial partners. And the key question was, what can we do to get more and more independent from fossil fuel as a source, as the main source for raw material? Because when we want to get climate neutral, we also need to have renewable sources. You need to use renewable sources in our products. And the idea, based on previous research work within Covestro, was, can we use carbon dioxide, for example, as a raw material to produce insulation materials? And at the end of a 5-year, very intensive research and collaborated work between Covestro, Purain, and some other companies, we managed it. We found a solution where we can use, and we have been able to now to produce a prototype using already around about 20% of the total raw material used to produce an insulation panel comes from carbon dioxide. So, and this was a very interesting step forward to circular economy, to get more and more independent from fossil fuel.
Thanks. Thanks, Andreas, and of course to all the chemists and non-chemists out there, using CO2 for anything has been a big challenge for decades, and this is why I guess it's called a dream, because it's almost a dream come true if you can use the climate gas for something else than warming up the environment. But Susheta, from your point of view, projects like Dream Resources, kind of is this the way we kind of build in sustainability actually into the products?
Yeah, Nico, firstly, it's really great listening to Jan and Andreas and their perspective on materials, on cities, on how to design for it. And we all know, I originally come from India, and we all know the incredible stress of large and small cities, and what it does to resources. Now, therefore, coming from that point of view, I think a project like Dream Resource, which is a collaborative project, it's an innovative project. It's such an important first step towards this whole aspect of circular economies. And you rightly pointed out, this ability to harness CO2 as a resource for building prototypes and furthering the whole element of circularity is so critical. Uh, and this is an important milestone, but also for the industry and also for total communities. And I'd just like to explain a little bit why I think it's an important milestone. I think we can talk a lot about harnessing CO2 as a resource, but now we've seen it being used across a whole bunch of products and industries. We have, as you know, in Covestro, we use the CO2 with this very innovative CO2 technology to build CO2 based polyol. We call it Cardion, and Cardion has been now successfully used for simple things like mattresses, but also other stuff like sports flooring, interior of cars, textile fibers as well. But in the construction industry or in the building industry, why Dream Resource is such an important milestone is because we are now, and Andreas referred to it, we've now been able to demonstrate that we can make rigid foam polyols, insulation materials using the CO2. It compares to industry standards, to market standards. That's extremely critical because you don't want to go in there and say it's not performing as well, so it performs to market standards. The cooperation with Puran and architects such as Jans carries on, and it is an alternate raw material. So the success of Dream Resource, I believe, it's just super critical, important milestone, and it demonstrates the incredible diverse opportunities then move towards to not only showcase the value of polyurethane, but to also harness these resources and de-link from fossil resources. I think just an incredible step forward for myself.
Thanks, Sue, for these comments. I want to go again, Jan, to you to talk a little bit about, from an architect's point of view, how important is it for you that there is that kind of collaboration between the industry partners to develop, for example, in this case, insulation boards, which are partly made of carbon dioxide? Does that make any difference from your point of view?
Yes, I think because also we as planners are very dependent from the industry, and when and that's our aim, we want to build the best solution for the peoples, and that we can do only with very great and innovative products. And so we have to work together with companies and with this new innovation people who want to create something new, and then we are able to create very good and very innovative space for the people.
Thanks, Jan. And of course, I mean, you have to plan. I mean, you have to kind of work with what the industry is providing. So it certainly sounds like there is good collaboration, specifically in Überlingen. We asked our audience before how much they thought emissions could be cut by making buildings more efficient. Let's look at the results we got by collecting the comments from the pretty much past 24 hours. According to our almost 1,000 opinions, over half believes that 50% of building emissions can be cut or emissions can be cut by 2050. 30% say that 30% can be cut, and so there's very high, I would say, belief that buildings can contribute a lot to the reduction of emissions. I want to hear Andreas, as somebody who is producing insulation materials for buildings. What do you think about these results?
Yeah, I fully agree on this result. So the majority of the followers of the people being asked here says more than 50%, or at least 50% of the emissions could be cut by you making buildings more efficient. And I think there is even potential to save more amounts of emissions. So because sometimes the key question is, how do we want to make climate neutral situations or climate neutral cities? Do we want to use it only by using renewable energy, or what kind of role plays energy efficiency? And what type of heating technologies shall we use in the future? I think we are all clear that we can't use the technology from yesterday, and we can't use any fossil fuels in the future to meet this target. But I would like to keep the focus on energy efficiency, and specifically to make quarters or make city districts energy efficient, and so be ready for different types of renewable heating technologies. It's very important to improve the energy efficiency of buildings, and insulation is one of the technology which is very suitable to make buildings more efficient. And if you have insulation products, insulation materials, which are also based on recycled materials, which are based on renewable sources, then you have even the opportunity to reduce the carbon emissions even beyond 50%. So energy efficiency of the buildings first, I think is the main target.
Thanks,
Yeah.
thanks, Andreas. Maybe I will ask you, Suseta, also your opinions on the poll. Before we go there, let's take a quick look on what so far the audience thinks about what affects the sustainability of cities so far. Let's see what we have here. We have an even match so far. Well, only 6 votes by so far. So, please go to slide.com hot and have your say. But so far, the audience believes that public policy and human behavior is trumping technology so far in what makes cities more sustainable. But coming back to Yusu, and coming back to the poll results that we can see here, how much do you believe there's room for development in this area? I mean, Andreas is certainly convinced that there's a lot we can do alone from the buildings, but how do you see this?
Yeah, I think I'd like to agree with Andreas here. The potential is huge, and let's again step back. And Andreas did talk about it a little bit, and I'd like to sort of repeat it and put it into sort of bite-sized pieces. Firstly, buildings. Buildings are responsible for 40% of global energy consumption. That's a whopping amount in itself. They are also responsible for a third of CO2 emissions. You see, if you take the industry sector, something like 19%, close to 20%, they're the largest contributor to energy related CO2 emissions. So, just in terms of kind of the sources of emissions or energy consumption comes from buildings or industry. So to that extent, if you then jump and talk about energy efficiency and delinking from fossil fuels, insulation then automatically, it sort of goes without saying that it plays an incredibly important part in this whole energy efficiency. And Andreas talked about it. If you then say, okay, insulation, then you not only just have to say traditional insulation, but you also then have to say, how can one use harness resources like CO2 in this case, but also sort of recycle and get the materials back home, bring them home to again have wings to go out, provide useful insulation materials, and keep getting recycled in a circular fashion. Today, I would say that polyurethane rigid foam is extremely efficient. It is perhaps the most efficient insulating material from a lifestyle perspective. Polyurethane has an excellent energy balance, and it can, across its lifetime, save approximately 70 times more energy of its entire life cycle than is required to even manufacture it. So you start seeing what the benefits are. It enables much thinner insulation. And in today's day and age, when urbanization and the pressures are so huge for space within buildings, thinner insulation, more efficient insulation is also extremely critical. It's mechanically durable. It's temperature resistant. It's got high aging resistance. So tremendous functional properties as well. So with partnerships, with collaborations, we've talked about that with industries such as Purin, but also architects, policy making. You saw that in your poll. People do believe that policy plays an important role. I think that 50% number we can cast aside and go for a much higher number there. So I sort of hope that gives a flavor from at least my perspective as well as the industry perspective to kind of go for some more ambitious levels to what we can do in this particular area.
Thanks, Sue. So if the industry definitely has potential to make increase through technology the reduction of emission in the cities, let's go to the policy side. As recently as last December, the European Union, sorry, the climate target of the European Union to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from 2030 was raised from at least 40 to at least 55% compared to 1990. So to what extent do you see the industry as having the responsibility to contribute to this from the policy point of view? I mean, how much responsibility is the industry taking? Maybe Susheta, if you can briefly continue on that, and maybe Andreas, you can continue on and add to that.
Yeah, I think, Nico, it's not an option any longer. It's an obligation for industry to contribute to this goal. I've already talked about how much buildings are responsible in terms of energy consumption, also CO2 emissions. We see how much industry takes its share of energy-related CO2 emissions. So in a sense, I don't think optionality exists. It's sort of an obligation. It's non-negotiable. And companies such as Covestro, which has the scientific expertise and, of course, the partnership expertise, along with people like Puren, Andreas is on this talk, architects such as Jan, but across the board collaborations, I think it is an obligation to invest in research, invest in technologies, prototypes where we can demonstrate that efficiency standards can also be met through harnessing new technologies such as CO2 technologies, our polyols, Cardion-based boards. With Puren as a partner, things like the Purenet boards as well as recycling is not only being demonstrated but is being practiced. So I suppose I'd like to underline, not an optionality, it is an obligation.
Thanks. Thanks. And Andreas, do you feel the same?
Absolutely, and I fully agree on what Sue just was mentioning, and it is true that it's no option; it's an obligation, and especially when we talk about buildings and the building industry. When we look to the buildings have such a long lifetime. We are not building a building just for 5 years or 10 years. No, at minimum 50 years or even beyond, 60, 80 years. And the way we construct the buildings today, the way we make them efficient today, determines over the years the energy consumption. Of course, buildings can be renovated, but that causes another investment, and sometimes people are reluctant to invest in renovation. So this is part of our obligation, that we have to develop new products. But it's not only to have a new product; we need complete solutions, and to develop solutions, we need this kind of collaboration, because it's not only just a question of one company. For example, like us, an insulation producer, we need this collaboration together with raw material supplier, with the architects. We need collaboration together with universities to find better solutions, and then I think we have the obligation to build the buildings in the best way we can do now, to make them ready for the future.
Thanks, Andreas. I want to get Jan, your architect's perspective into this. So from a policy point of view, I mean, you must be pressured as architects and planners also kind of to do more to reach the climate targets by 2050. What's your take on this, Jan?
I think we are very, very near to our clients who want to build the building and who want to live in the buildings. And so I think it's the most important thing that we have to do, that we have to convince our clients to take this responsibility and to build and to invest in such solutions and such new building types. So maybe we are between the policy and the industry and the clients. So we get the inputs from every side. And we have to build and we have to realize the projects.
Thanks, Jan. I mean, I think there's a lot of pressure on you actually, because you have to kind of take the puzzle pieces and make out of that a well-functioning and sustainable city that the people actually want to live in. And actually, we want to talk, Jan, more about the behavioral aspects of sustainability in a bit. And thanks, Mahesh Nagila, for your comment. It is indeed every person's obligation to do their thing so we can live a climate neutral life in cities by 2050, which really brings me to the topic of circular economy, because Covestro, but also many other companies are now mandating to improve recycling technologies and other processes in a way that we no longer waste resources. So how important, Susheta, is circular economy to you if you look it from this Überlingen perspective, a city which aims to become climate neutral by 2050?
Oh, once again, an incredibly interesting question. You say how important it is. I believe, and Covestro does believe so strongly that the circular economy is the foundation for almost everything today. Without this transformation, as a globe, we and as a planet, we will be lost. We are already sort of utilizing resources far beyond what we can generate as a planet. But also look at the challenges today, mass scale displacements because of climate change, notwithstanding other political issues. And therefore, the pressure on very, very limited resources, but also in very concentrated places, urban hubs will take place at a scale which will be which one can only sort of imagine here. So it is something that is a foundation for everything. And the traditional sort of linear economy on make, consume, dispose is absolutely not an option. So for us as an industry to collaborate and think about solutions at every element to do with renewable energy, harnessing resources such as CO2, so not looking at it as a waste, but as a resource, other elements of biofeedstocks, making it easy for consumers to recycle and to participate in all of this is also incredible, because when people move into homes, or when people move from rural centers to say urban centers, they're not moving in and saying, oh, now I'm going to go in there and wow, I want to use lots of energy. So that's not what they're saying. At the heart, what they are coming into is to say, I want to be a responsible citizen. I don't want to put pressure on resources. I want affordability. So it is up to all of us to think in this circular fashion along all elements: energy, resource, raw materials, recyclability, new technologies, whether it's pyrolysis or chemolysis, and make sure that we make it easy for communities, for governments, and anybody who is using us up and down the value chain to enable and practice circularity.
Thanks, Susheta. And I think now we're getting into the really interesting topic of human behavior, and also the affordability of sustainability, which I think is a constant discussion. Can people afford to be sustainable? And as we're witnessing this development of ever growing urban areas, and the necessity to make it affordable for the population, something, Andreas, you touched upon in the beginning. So how do we tackle the issue of affordability? And maybe we then go back to the behavior parts. Yeah, Andreas, you want to continue on the affordability part? I mean, what are the expectations also put on your behalf to make it affordable for the tenants to live in these beautiful houses that you can see behind me?
Yeah. It's absolutely right. It's a very important point to talk about affordability of climate neutral cities, because sometimes we can read in the newspaper, or people are just talking to each other. Okay, we all understand climate neutral is something positive, but it should not cost anything. And sometimes you can read articles that say a high energy standard is in contradiction to being affordable, and to provide affordable apartments for a large range of people. And so and our challenge here mainly in this project was to demonstrate how it can work, to provide new products, to provide a new type of building design, and to being focused on a district, not just only on a single building, because we need to realize synergies. And there are a lot of synergies between existing building, like you can see on this picture. Very good. On the left hand side, you can see an existing living residential quarter from the late 60s, early 70s, 1970s, which is far away from being climate neutral. And on the right-hand side, we just built a new district, a new quarter, being from or in total 14 buildings, and now we would like to realize synergies, and this to realize such synergies, to make both quarters, both districts climate neutral, you can also reduce the financial cost levels. So this is one example. The other example is when we develop new products, for example, insulation material, ground space is very limited and gets more and more expensive. And so the cost increase of new ground is a key driver for the overall cost situation of mainly new buildings. So I think we need to work on new solutions. What can we do to design thinner walls, and not to do it as a compromise with the energy level, to keep highest energy level, but in addition to construct and to plan very, very thin walls. And so polyurethane rigid foam, for example, is a fantastic enabler to realize both high energy level and also realize thin walls. And if you have a thin wall construction, you get more space inside for the living. And this is like a financial benefit for the overall investment. And if you understand it as a financial benefit, then you can keep the total cost and the rental fees on an affordable level.
Right, Andreas. And I think this is something that takes a very holistic view to kind of understand where does the value actually come from. Jan, I want to come back to you, because besides having thinner walls and by that way increasing or reducing the emissions of living in a building, like we can see right behind me, the new ones, Jan, what does it take from a tenant's point of view or from an owner's living point of view to become really more sustainable in your own behavior? I mean, I've heard crazy stuff that you have apps and all kinds of amazing things, how you are kind of helping the people to live a more sustainable life after Andreas has built them in a way that from a constructional point of view, they're as good as they can be. Jan,
Yes,
can you talk us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think the people who are living in this district have to learn more about the benefit, about this advantage of this new construction type, because when they live in this district, they have all this advantage we offer to them because of this financial system which Andreas told us. We can bring a lot to the people. We not only build the flat for the people, we create a public space, we create apps for citizens, we create a coffee, we create a lot of public space to live together, and with this thin walls we can also give the green parts to the people, so they are not living only in a city, they are living in a green place, which all the benefits for urban place, and that is very important, I think. So to combine the green parts of living with the city parts of living.
Thanks, Andreas. And and actually, if we again take a look at Slido around what contributes to sustainability in cities, really, we have an increasing number of people who believe human behavior has a bigger impact than the other two factors, which I think is quite interesting. Let's talk a little bit about more what can you do as a person. Because the consumers, and this is something, let me just show the comment from Magesh. Again, thanks, Magesh, for putting in your comment. And please write in your comments in the comment box below. He's saying I feel many organizations are following a circular economy policies while manufacturing a product. We're lacking to make aware to consumers about the value of sustainability. So, for example, if I live in a super efficient house, I may still, put my window open or hold my window open to, have some fresh air in. So I think this is an interesting proposition, the value of sustainability. Susheta, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Mahesh makes touches upon a very pertinent point. Um, uh, if consumers are not, or let's say residents within a building, homeowners or tenants within a building, are not aware of either the convenience aspect or the economic aspects or the commute system aspects of the value of sustainability, it becomes difficult to make it real and resonant. Some of the apps that allow me, say, as a person living in a building or even working in this office, some of the apps which allow me to track how much energy I'm either losing or using, then makes it easy for me to see what my daily behavior can do. If I can concretely measure, for example, my electricity bill or my energy consumption bill from a before and an after, once again, it makes it easy for me to know not only what I'm saving, but what else I can do with that resource. Uh, the choice of building materials, let's say as a homeowner, I'm in conversation with Yan, and we are talking about, say, either a new home or even retrofitting my old home. Uh, if I'm not aware of the questions that I need to ask or the behaviors that I can undertake, either in what materials to use or how to use it, space saving, etc., etc., that means I can't go that extra mile either as an individual and thereby also propagate it as an ecosystem and as a community. But I think it all goes hand in hand. It's a large bit to do with innovation and giving the materials, but it's also to do with information, how we disseminate it, and also the usage of simple little techniques, maybe apps or some information to make it both performance viable as well as behavior viable for the future to prompt this whole circularity in thinking.
Thanks. Thanks you. Andreas, I think you mentioned also that the concept of a sustainable city includes so many different topics, like also mobility, shared mobility. These are, I think, also interesting parts of the package. Coming back to the question that Sue also just commented on, what is it that creates sustainable value? Can you, Andreas, talk about a little bit the aspects of the other aspect, kind of around the building or next to the building, that enable less emission life for the citizens, in this case, Überlingen?
Yeah, um, it's right. It's just more than just only focus on the way the buildings are constructed. When we and For example, we have three types of energy in this quarter, energy sources in this quarter. We have a local heat, a local heating facility using wood pellets from the local forest. We have solar thermal plant, and we have photovoltaics on the roofs. And so there will be also a battery, kind of battery storage in this quarter. And so when there is just additional energy available coming from the photovoltaics, can be used for charging electronic cars. And we also will offer to or this company who is building these houses is also providing to its people who live there a mobile share concept with electronic cars, just to keep the total amount, or just to reduce the total amount of cars needed in this quarter. And and everything shall be guided with a local dedicated app, a software app for So everybody who is living in this quarter can use this app and can understand and can also understand how good they are already in the way they consume energy. Can they change their behavior? Can they do better? How is their energy consumption compared to the average of the others living there? So it's a kind of benchmarking, and there will be also, yeah, a kind of championship. So the people who live there, who are best in saving energy, um, they they will get additional benefits. For example, the cars, the district cars for a weekend for free, or something else. Just
So this is
as
kind of
random.
the race to the bottom on who is able to reduce their emissions and kind of who wins, who reaches the bottom of zero emissions first. I think that's a fascinating concept. Jan, I still want to poke you a little bit more about the living arrangements as they are planned in Uerdingen, not in Uerdingen, Überlingen. Sorry for my bad German knowledge, because the classic concept of having an apartment after one apartment, kind of having this one family idea of designing apartments. In this case, in the Stadtquartier 2050, you have very different kind of living arrangements. Can you talk a little bit about that, Jan?
Yes, of course. But let me add some things which Andreas just called, because I think we are experts and we have to help the people. And so in the very beginning of the project, we talked about the parking space, and because parking space is very necessary, but it's not a very urban and living situation. So we discussed with the government to reduce the parking space. So normally in Überlingen you have to build 1.5 parking place for a flat, and we reduced it to one place, and we add the bicycle parts, and so this points together with the app Andreas explains. I think all the infrastructure and the traffic situation is a very important thing for this living space. Only as but now to your questions, Nico. Yes, we build very different types of living space. We start by 1 and 2 room spaces to 4 or 5 rooms, but we have got also very special rooms. We call it, or you can call it, Joker room. You can add maybe a room for a family who need a person for take care to the children or for the grandmother, and so you can make bigger. You can make a flat bigger, but we have also just called cluster. Clusters are a very big space where 1 or 2 person have his private room and maybe a living room together, and so they have both. They have the public area in the flat, but also the privacy room in the same space, and that I think it's very important to think about the living types in the future.
Thanks, Jan, for pointing that out. Maybe I wanna Sue, as somebody who has lived in different parts of the world, you have seen kind of many different kind of living arrangements. How much do you believe that kind of designing for flexibility in living arrangements is a key to sustainability? Just kind of following up on what Jan just said, kind of forgetting that one size fits all thinking and being more flexible, not only in terms of mobility sharing, but also living sharing arrangements. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there is a universal truth, Nico, in what homes and families look for, but equally in that universal truth is varying degrees of flexibility. So at a national level, we know that say things like temperature requirements, either air conditioning or heating, does vary by different parts of the world. Affordability is a key criteria, and what materials are suitable for one budget is very different from another budget, but also related to temperature could be very different. So, sizes of family, the differences between nuclear families and joint families, or families with a one child policy versus many children in the home. All these are varying factors linked to a universal human truth, but of course, there are exponential requirements which go along with it. And the more we recognize uh, some common principles on what can aid to sustainability or circularity, but also provide, let me call it, affordable flexibility or agile flexibility, does help. So if we, for example, like some of our pure wall prefab solutions, enable upsizing or downsizing depending on requirements as I age in the curve or as I expand my family requirements, then that is definitely usable. And it also facilitates human behavior towards adding to sustainability and circularity rather than put in me a defense requirement. So once again, I don't know whether I've answered your question, but some of the solutions from South Quarter 2050 and Oberlingen does point to a truth which can be globally scaled up if we follow the right principles and the right requirements.
Thanks, Sue. And I think we can see that there's increased flexibility needed. I mean, if we continue to do things as we have done forever, we will not reach climate neutrality by 2050. So I think Überleben also from that case is an interesting pilot project where you see different aspects coming together, hopefully with the end result of having a climate neutral a living space. I want to, by the way, also show you that there is a wonderful German language website, Stadtquartier 20, I have to say it in German, Stadtquartier2050.de. So Stadtquartier2050.de. This is a website where you can kind of follow the latest on how it is developing, different aspects of what does it really take to make a sustainable city until 2050. So feel free to use that resource to kind of keep you up on the latest. So before we end up, thank you, Gara, for your wonderful icon as a comment. Before we close this session, any final words from our guests on what does it really take to make a sustainable city by 2050? And also maybe to all of you, do you believe that, I mean, you are all young people. In 2050, if you go to Überlingen to fish on Bodensee, will you be able to live in a climate neutral city? It's an open question. Who wants to go first? You live there, so you should have an opinion on this.
Absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. So we have, as part of this city, we have energy roadmap to make this city climate neutral. We have it in the regional district, and we also have it as part of the city. Now we have just broken it down to a lower level, to a district. And I think this is the way how it really can work. Start on a regional level, focus on a city level, and then focus on a district level. And so then you have just a sound concept. And we are all very proud of this project, and that we received additional funding from the German government. So thank you very much to German government to finance a lot of research work we do around this project. Because as Jan said, we analyze new type of residential apartments. We call it cluster apartments. And it is so important to understand how the people would like to live and how their behavior and how their requirements are changing over the years. to have a socially balanced situation in a district, it's very important to be flexible. And this type of flexibility is very important to incorporate already at the planning from day one, if you plan such a district.
Thanks, Andreas. Jan, what are your greetings to all the architects out there who want to build cities that will be climate neutral by 2050?
Yes, I think sustainable building is the most important thing for the future. And so we have to do everything to reach this aim. And I'm proud to be a part of this project, but I also think the insulation is a part of this whole project, but only a small part. As my point of view as an architect, I think the aesthetical part and also the situation of living is a very, very important part of this sustainable buildings. And so yes, I think we as architects have to bring every possible effort to this aim and to bring all this, and also to convince all people to go in the same direction.
Thanks, Jan, for these encouraging words. It can be done. Sue, you have the last word. Before you go there, let me just reflect on the Slido results. Where do we stand? We don't have so many votes over Slido. We have much more over LinkedIn. But the judgment of the audience so far is that human behavior will make cities more sustainable. But Susheta, what are your kind of final thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think I don't want to necessarily weigh in and say which bits are more important and which bits are less important. I'd like to maybe underline a few simple principles. First and foremost, I do think it's all about the circular economy, circular ecosystems, and going there and not following the traditional methods of traditional way of linear thinking. The second bit is that no one is individually as smart as the collective whole. So we have to trust in collaboration and each other's perspectives. Like Andreas and Jan said, it's about designing and enabling living and making sure we start with smaller communities, but quickly scale that up either through twinning or through sharing examples, and quickly embrace the full living experience, because you can't just say I'll tackle one small aspect and then leave everything. So if I have a city which is sort of way back or beyond and I have to travel for resources somewhere else, it doesn't solve the whole picture. So yes, start with communities, get into cities, twin the cities, make sure it's scalable, and thereby, yes, it is possible. So 2050 isn't that far ahead, but we need to all jointly make it possible.
Thanks, Sue. So looking at the city behind me, it's a beautiful city. So I think it deserves to be climate neutral by 2050, and thus fulfilling also the climate goals of the Paris Convention and also the Germany as a country. So thank you so much, Andreas, Jan, and Sue, for taking time out of your, I know, very busy schedules to discuss this extremely important topic with us. And I'm really looking forward to kind of follow how this project evolves. Maybe we can do another live cast from location next time. And please check out the Stadtquartier2050.de website, all in German. Also an opportunity for you to brush up on German if you want to kind of know the latest. So thank you very much all, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you to Nico, and thank you to Jan.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Collaboration and for this talk, and thank you very much for all the people watching us and listening us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Bye.
So thank you very much also to our guests, as always, and for your questions, especially Magesh, who was the greatest question posing colleague this time. despite the pandemic, it appears like this digital interaction does work in one way or the other. So stay tuned for our next episode and stay safe and healthy. Bye bye.